Hello and welcome to Dario. I'm Tony, and joining us today is Mark Reese. Mark,
Hello,
thank you for
everyone.
joining.
Well, thanks for having me. I think this may be my first Dario, or no, my second Dario interview. You interviewed me at the Jadi conference, so
I
good to be
did.
back.
That was a really interesting conference for me. I really enjoyed it.
It's groundbreaking in many ways. I would not have imagined it happening uh, before President Mirziyoyev
Mhm.
took power. The Jadis were somewhat ignored for quite some time, and now they're just getting the place that they deserve in Uzbek national identity.
Well, I think you're almost halfway, more than halfway on your way to becoming an honorary citizen. Um,
Yeah, that's interesting. Never thought about that, but yeah, my wife's from Tashkent,
mhm.
and I think this September will be 30 years of me engaged in Uzbekistan. I started with Peace Corps Group 2 in 1994. So yeah, I definitely think of Uzbekistan as my second homeland for sure. So it would just be kind of a formality, right?
Definitely just the formality, getting the papers signed. And
Right.
you've done a lot for getting Uzbekistan out there on the global stage with all the
Thank you.
translation work that you've done. Can you tell me a little bit about the new book that you've translated?
So it's very much of a collaboration. A young man in Andijan, Abdullah Ruziev, I met him through friends. One day, I had finished Dukan Kunlar and it was out there. I received the Order of Duslik, and friends introduced me to Abdullah and said, this guy is an aspiring translator. He translated a novel into English. I thought, oh no, I'm kind of the school of thought that you should translate into your native language.
Hmm.
I can live another 30 years going to Uzbekistan. I'll never be as good as a writer as a native Uzbek. Writing is usually the last skill that you learn in language acquisition. And so I'm a little bit tough on this, but okay, kid, send me your manuscript. Let's take a look at it. And it wasn't bad. It wasn't in native literary English but I thought, I've got some time. I people helped me out in my career early on. I need to pay it forward and help this guy out. So we started this thing a couple of years ago, with me going back to the original document and looking at the original. And as I joke respectfully to everybody, Abdullah, I translated the English into English, sort of retranslated it.
Oh, I've done that
And
before.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And, look at what I know remember about Uzbek. And, and part of that process is, the unofficial MFA program for Abdullah. You become a better writer by writing. You become a better translator by translating. I would suggest to a lot of the Uzbeks out there that you should be translating into Uzbek because there's a huge need for the world to come to Uzbekistan. But he did such a great job, and I think he had a kid along the way, so it's kind of tugging at my heartstrings. And so it's taken us 2 years, uh, thousands of questions from Abdullah along the way. Uh, United Cement Group kind of saved the day with a donation for me to hire really great editors. I hired John Campion from the UK to do the edit, to fix my many mistakes in the English language. And then I brought on three Uzbek reviewers. I don't know how they feel yet about me saying their name out in public, but
Mhm.
one of them I know will be okay with it. Munira Nurova, who started a literary agent a few years ago. And I think when you do these things, you've got to be humble. You got to take the ego away from it. And as John caught many of my many errors in the English language, Munira and these other two really, over the past couple of weeks, I had these really cringy moments of like, oh my god, I can't believe I missed that. If I had published this book with this mistake, I would have been, laughed
Mhm.
out of Tashkent. So they really saved the day. And what I'm trying to do with collaboration is just get Uzbeks to collaborate. During the Soviet period, that was difficult to do.
Yeah.
Before Uzbekistan started bringing in intellectual property rights legislation, the concept of copyright, etc. If you
That's
gave your
non-existent.
man, it was non-existent, and if you gave your manuscript to someone, it was gone.
Yeah.
It was pretty cutthroat, and now there are repercussions for that. And so, bringing in this collaboration and this humility to say that this is a process, as you know, as a writer, writing is revision.
Hmm.
And in the past I've run into quite a few men, mainly, not so much toxic femininity, a lot of toxic masculinity, of how dare someone edit my mistakes, I'm the perfect writer since Nabokov or Dostoevsky. I'm like, no, you're not. They had editors too.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at. We had a GoFundMe fundraising. Some great patriots of Uzbekistan donated some money. United Cement Group donated funds for editing, revision, artwork for the book. And my big announcement, you've been really patient with this long answer. I believe on the 31st of March will be the book release on Amazon. And there will be an advert at the World Trade Center, New York City's World Trade Center metro stop. And I can send you, Tawny, the artwork that Dildora Shah Muradova is doing for this book cover and for this display
Yes,
in
please.
Tashkent. It's gorgeous. I mean, there's so many talented people in Tashkent, and the idea that the millions of people that are going to go through World Trade Center metro stop. It's a
Mm.
sacred place for me, and it's a place for Uzbekistan and America to come together. And just as with Ugan Kunlar, I'm not going to translate the title. I think it's time for the world to learn Uzbek. And when you read the Shahnameh, you read the Shahnameh.
Hmm.
You don't read the Book of Kings. That's a different book.
Just
The, so I think there's a great power in calling something for what it is. I'll do a little
Mhm.
thing below that says "such is life" or whatever the trans. But what I want people visually to see when they walk into a bookstore or on Amazon or the Metro is just to see some Uzbek
Yeah.
and acknowledge Abdullah will be there in the advert as a translator. Hashimov's name, of course, will be on the cover. UCG's logo and QR code to their website. And with them, I'm trying to get these businesses in Tashkent to understand the idea of philanthropic efforts. That's how New York City became New York City, baby.
Oh my God.
Billionaires came in and built beautiful buildings. Not baby towards you, but just to clarify that. But we say New York City, baby. So these huge buildings, these beautiful buildings, were built because wealthy patrons cared about
Mhm.
furthering their public spaces. And so UCG's done that. The GoFundMe people have done that. And I think that the Metro stop is a way to celebrate all of that.
And what was the biggest challenge of this entire experience?
Translation is betrayal.
Mm.
I had three Uzbek reviewers, and they all disagreed on one point. You'll never get translators and editors to entirely agree on anything. That's
Mhm.
probably a little bit of your world too. Uh, that argument or that debate, that discussion, that's a good thing. Everyone kind of learns from each other and everything. But it's the same thing with Qadiri. Qadiri had a really wonderful sense of humor in Ugan Kunlar. I don't think I really captured Qadiri's humor. And
Mhm.
Hashimov, it's a novel set in Tashkent during World War II, a time of famine. a time of loss during wartime. Uh, People were going to the front, Stalingrad, Minsk, and they weren't coming back.
Mm.
Brothers, sisters, husbands, uncles, fiancés were not coming back. And so, as Hashimov writes this novel that's really an ode to his mother during
Mhm.
that period, that kind of carried the weight of the family and kept them fed. The Mahala that they lived in took care of each other. And it's the story about this boy navigating 1940s Tashkent with his mom as an ode to her and how she carried the weight. But as you know, you live in Tashkent. Tashkent has always been called the city of bread,
Yeah.
a city of open arms that takes in refugees, that takes in people from around the world and gives them a home. So there's lots of commentary about orphans, adoption, domestic violence. Many
Mhm.
of the issues that we talk about today in Tashkent are still, they were prevalent. And I mean, this is the human condition.
But at
And
the
so,
time of this
yeah,
war, actually, my husband's grandmother, Katoya, she won an award for being like a mother of Uzbekistan because she actually looked after more than 100 orphans during this time.
right. And you know, that's the Uzbek culture I know. When I joined Peace Corps in the early '90s, these were the wild '90s of the former Soviet Union.
Mhm.
It was the death of an empire, and it was ugly. People were struggling to eat. They were struggling to get by. There were shortages on flour. It's the
Mhm.
first time I'd ever seen a food line in my life in Kokon, people queuing to get flour, and it was tough. But my parents had no idea where I was going. There were no real maps of Uzbekistan yet. There was just the Soviet Union maps from the Soviet period, no dictionaries. My dad, when I got a plane ticket, said, "You have no idea where you're going." I'm like, "Dad, that's the cool part." That's I don't know. That's the cool part. I'm group two. It's the first encounter with a lot of people in the Fergana Valley. But
Mm.
these Uzbeks, when I moved into a Mahala, they took care of me like I was their son. So when Hashimov talks about these kids eating, one of the photo pictures you'll see will be of these kids eating mulberries under a tree. One of the old men in the Mahala that is waiting for his son to return uh, is constantly feeding these kids throughout the year with mulberries to keep calories in them. In the winter they make syrup from them, and so there's that compassion that I've always seen among Uzbeks towards people in dire straits. I don't want to be too melodramatic, but I wouldn't be alive today if in the '90s if it wasn't for Uzbeks keeping an eye out for me. So when you get into translation, how do you bring that
Mm.
set of emotions and context to the reader? And that's where I'm most worried about. But I'm a big follower of Edith Grossman, who's credited with the definitive translation of Cervantes. She did almost all of Gabriel Garcia Marquez's
Mhm.
novels. And I had a chance to host her when I worked at the Naval Academy. And she said, "Mark, at the end of the day, with translation, you have to tell the story. Don't get too caught up on this. Sounds counterintuitive. Don't get too caught up on grammar. Don't
Mhm.
get too caught up on obscurities. Tell the damn story, because at the end of the day, you're the storyteller. You've taken Hashimov's voice and you are telling it to the audience from your perspective." So
Yeah.
the same with Ukan Kunlar. Like, I hope new generations come through and they say, I need to kill my hero. Mark Reese, that bastard. I need to do this guy in and do a better translation of Ukan Kunlar. So Ukan Kunlar for me is Mark Reese's version of Ukan Kunlar. And with
Yeah.
Hashimov, it's more of a group effort. So it's really cool, to get Abdullah from Andajan, Munira correcting everything, these other two reviewers hummeling me, So that's the challenge with translation, is just, it's always betrayal. I hate the French misogynistic, anecdote of, a translation is either beautiful or intelligent, but it's never both.
Hmm.
And so I choose beauty. I choose telling a story that warrants the reader's time. I'm asking the reader for their time, and I don't want to betray that. And for them to learn something about Uzbekistan and Central Asia in the process.
Well, then I think you're definitely the perfect person to be doing this because you have that
Okay, thank you.
hands on experience. You've experienced the culture, the people, you really know it inside out. So I think
That's very
being
kind.
able to trust you to bring that out, I don't see anybody else being able to do that.
I met my last visit when I met you. I got an invite from the Hashimov family.
Mm.
You know, it's the same with meeting the Qadiris. The Qadiris. Abdullah Qadiri was murdered in 1938.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. Not that same narrative with Utkir Hashimov. He passed away in 2013. Wrote the novel in the 1980s. It was a different period, but it's terrifying when you meet the family. you know, like I'm old school from Arizona guy, grew up among cowboys and Mexicans. And, when you break bread with someone, it's a very serious deal for me. And so when I broke bread with the Hashimov family and hear these stories and about Utkiraka, they took me into his office, which was like a museum, and let me touch some of his things and that type of thing. I just think, I left the house, lovely family, very nice people. I thought, man, don't screw this up.
No pressure.
No pressure, right? You meet the family and they're excited and they gave me a Chopin as a gift and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, I hope this book doesn't suck.
Yeah, no pressure at all.
No pressure at all. Yeah. I think
That,
if
that
I could handle Qadiri, Hondamir Qadiri, the grandson of Abdullah Qadiri, if I'm still in his good, we're still buddies and everything. So I think I may be okay with the Hashimov family too.
yeah, I think so. And the fact that they really wanted to meet you also shows that the trust that they have in you to do a good job with it.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Um,
so, March, Navruz,
March 31st for
30.
Navruz. I believe in dates as well, and the metro signage should be up for about a month. I'm going to try to get up to New York City, and there's a bit of vanity here. I'm talking about ego. I want to get a sign of me standing in front of this metro sign that I put up.
You
But
need,
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you need to.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I'm speaking with an Uzbek coffee house in Manhattan, in Brooklyn, Poetica Coffee. I think they call themselves Poetica Coffee or just Poetica. And we have a notional set of dates and everything. So what I want to do is get Amazon to print up 50 copies for a book signing. I'm a
Mhm.
hippie from northern Arizona, so a coffee shop and a book signing is that's a sign of success for me.
Will you do a
So just,
reading?
I'm sorry.
Will you do a reading while you're there at the signing?
Yeah, I guess so. I'll find. I'll do an overview of some of my favorite parts. Maybe read something. I'm really conscientious of my voice, so I'll try to sound serious when I do it. But
Well, I wish you the best of luck. It's very exciting.
thank you.
And I look forward to reading it.
You will get a signed copy without doubt. I've said this in front of the whole world now. This is in fact my first Hashimov interview.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
honored.
yeah, you are absolutely number one on the list.
Oh, that makes me very nervous.
Yeah,
Oh, thank you, Mark, so much for taking the time. And if you ever want to come back again to talk some more about books, about Uzbek language, we're here.
yeah, my pleasure. Absolutely.